Porsche is best known for making some of the very best sports cars in history, but like most other car makers, it doesn't have any experience making electric cars, until now. Yep, the Taycan is finally here, and it's out to prove that sports cars and electric cars aren't mutually exclusive. Now, that's a tall task, but if any car maker can pull it off, it's Porsche. So, is the Taycan something special? Let's find out. Now, before we get started, there's a bit to get through here, so we'll split this video review up into chapters with their time codes right here. So feel free to skip ahead to anything you're particularly interested in. And if you're watching on YouTube, there are chapter markers in the timeline below to make scrubbing ahead even easier. And as always, if you want to know more, you can read my detailed written review over at the CarsGuide website. And if you're not sure if the Taycan's right for you, we've reviewed plenty of other sports cars and electric cars. So be sure to subscribe to this channel, tap that bell icon, and you'll receive a notification every time we make a new upload. At launch, the Taycan is available in 3 all-wheel drive grades, but an entry-level rear-wheel drive grade is expected to join the range early next year alongside a cross-turismo wagon body style. For now, the 4S grade kicks off proceedings with a price from just over $190,000. Yep, you can get into a Taycan for $10,000 less than the slightly larger Panamera, not to mention $45,000 less than the iconic 911. That's a welcome surprise. Standard equipment in the 4S includes 3-chamber air suspension with adaptive dampers, cast iron brakes, 20-inch Sport Aero alloy wheels, LED headlights, rear privacy glass, and a power-operated tailgate. Inside, keyless entry and start, satellite navigation with live traffic, Apple CarPlay support, digital radio, a 710-watt Bose sound system with 14 speakers, a heated steering wheel, 14-way power-adjustable front seats with heating and cooling, and dual zone climate control feature. The turbo grade costs an extra $80,000 but adds rear torque vectoring, sports tuned suspension with active anti-roll bars, ceramic coated cast iron brakes, matrix LED headlights, 20-inch turbo aero alloy wheels, heated rear seats, and 4-zone climate control. Then there's the Turbo S grade, which costs another $70,000 but bundles in electric sports sound, the Sport Chrono package, speed sensitive and rear wheel steering, carbon ceramic brakes, 21-inch Mission E design alloy wheels, a sports steering wheel, and 18-way power adjustable front sport seats. Being a Porsche model, the Taycan does come with an extensive list of expensive options, with one that should be included being the $3,350 head-up display, and there are plenty of others that we'll mention in later chapters. When concept cars become production models, a lot of what makes them so special is often lost in translation, but the Taycan tells a different story, with it largely staying faithful to the Mission E that previewed it. And there's no mistaking the Taycan for anything but a Porsche model. That said, it's also clearly different to its siblings, both inside and out. Being an electric car, aerodynamics are a key focus for the Taycan, with their influence on the exterior evident from the front, where active air curtains drip down from the signature 4-point LED daytime running lights. And around the side, the Taycan has cool pop-out door handles, which look to minimise drag alongside an array of aerodynamic alloy wheel designs that look to extend its driving range. And at the rear, the Taycan has a 3-stage spoiler positioned above its LED tail light, with it automatically raised at 90 km per hour, and then again at 160 km per hour, and once more at 200 km an hour to increase downforce. Of course, the Taycan really hammers home the electric car point with its chunky diffuser, which of course doesn't integrate exhaust tailpipes, given it has 0 emissions. Inside, it's immediately apparent the Taycan is a technological tour de force. Up front, you've got a 10.9-inch touchscreen and an 8.4-inch touchscreen, with the lower one controlling the climate controls, and it's got haptic feedback. Even though it is a buttonless setup, with the haptic feedback, it actually works pretty well. If you want to keep your passengers entertained, you can option a second 10.9-inch touchscreen for $2,150, but why would you bother? Either way, the star of the show is this curved 16.8-inch digital instrument cluster. It's an impressive beast that serves up exactly what you need. In terms of the boot, it's accessed via this button here on the bumper, which opens up the power-operated tailgate. In all, you've got 366 litres of cargo capacity to play with, although you can fold down the rear seats to create even more space. But there is a tall load lip to contend with, which will make loading bulkier items a little bit more difficult. That said, you do have a couple of cubbies off to the side to secure loose items, as well as 4 tie-down points too. Being an electric car, the Taycan doesn't have an engine under the bonnet, but what you do get is this, a fruit or a frunk, whatever you want to call it. Either way, 84 litres of cargo capacity here as well. Now it is kind of deep, but not particularly wide, so you can fit a couple of soft bags in it and maybe a small suitcase instead. In terms of practicality, up front, you've got a couple of cup holders here with teeth to secure bottles, which is pretty nice. And then just behind it, you have a small central bin, but there's a couple of USB-C ports in there and a 12-volt power outlet as well, which is pretty good. There's another cubby space just underneath here, but it's not necessarily secure, so I don't know what you really would put there. And of course, there is a glove box as well, but it is on the smaller side, so you can only really fit the manual in it. And then of course, you've got the door bins, which are large enough for a couple of regular bottles. Here in the second row, it's not quite as spacious as the size of the Taycan might suggest. That said, you do get a couple of inches of legroom behind my 184 centimetre driving position, and headroom there's about an inch, but this particular test vehicle has the glass roof fitted, so it is a little bit different to the regular Taycan that doesn't come with it. In terms of amenities, got central air vents in the second row for occupants here. You also have a fold down armrest with a couple of cup holders, which is handy. And the door bins themselves take a bottle each. Now, the Taycan does come as a 4-seater as standard, but you can option a 5th seat for an extra $1,000. This particular test vehicle has it. It's actually pretty uncomfortable when you sit in it, so it's really only best used by children. Like all Porsche models, the Taycan doesn't have an ANCAP safety rating, which means it hasn't been independently crash tested. That said, it still puts in a strong effort on the safety front. Advanced driver assist systems in all Taycan grades extend to autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian detection, lane keep assist, adaptive cruise control, blind spot monitoring, surround view cameras, front and rear parking sensors, and tyre pressure monitoring. But you'll have to pay $1,200 for steering and intersection assist, $2,000 for rear autonomous emergency braking and cross-traffic alert with park assist, and $4,650 for night vision. Frankly, all but the latter should be standard. Other standard safety equipment includes 8 airbags, anti-skid brakes, and the usual electronic traction and stability control systems. All Taycans come with 2 permanent magnet synchronous electric motors split between the front and rear axles to enable all-wheel drive. That said, unlike other electric cars, the Taycan has a single-speed automatic transmission on its front axle and a 2-speed unit on its rear axle to increase its performance potential. That said, as the name suggests, not all grades are created equal, with the 4S producing up to 390 kilowatts of power and 640 newton meters of torque, and dashing from a standstill to 100 kilometers per hour in 4 seconds flat. While the $11,590 Performance Battery Plus package increases the 4S's outputs to 420 kilowatts and 650 newton meters, its impressive triple-digit sprint time stays the same. Then there's the turbo, which ups the ante to a ludicrous 500 kilowatts and 850 newton meters, reaching 100 kilometers per hour in just 3.2 seconds. But it's the Turbo S that takes performance to a whole other level, with it developing 560 kilowatts and 1,050 newton meters to hit triple digits in an almost unbelievable 2.8 seconds. Yep, it's one of the quickest cars in history. It's worth noting in all Taycan grades, maximum power and torque are only available on overboost, which is only activated when launch control is engaged. Being an electric car, the 4S comes with a 79.2 kilowatt-hour battery as standard and has an official combined electricity consumption of 26.2 kilowatt-hours per 100 kilometres and a claimed driving range of 365 kilometres. That said, buyers can opt for the $11,590 Performance Battery Plus package, which upgrades the 4S's battery to a 93.4 kilowatt-hour unit. It uses 27 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers and travels a much more useful 414 kilometers between charges. The larger battery is standard in the turbo, which uses 28 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers and covers 420 kilometers before needing to be charged. The same battery is also found in the Turbo S, although it uses 28.5 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers and lasts 405 kilometers on a single charge. As you can see on the screen right now, in the real world, we managed to better the 4S and Turbo's claims and fell just shy of the Turbo S's. While that is a strong set of results, it's worth keeping in mind the launch routes mainly consisted of higher speed country roads, so a more balanced mix of roads would yield higher returns. Either way, we never found ourselves riddled with anxiety when it came to driving range, and considering the high level of performance that's on offer, that's great news. But when the Taycan does run out of juice, the 4S can DC fast charge with up to 225 kilowatts of power, although that can be increased to 270 kilowatts with the $11,590 Performance Battery Plus package, which is fitted to the Turbo and Turbo S as standard. Using a DC fast charger with a CCS connector, the Taycan's battery can go from 5 to 80% capacity in as quickly as 22.5 minutes, while an 11 kilowatt AC charger with a Type 2 connector can do the job from either side of the car in 8 hours for the small unit or 9 for the large, so overnight. Pleasingly, all Taycans come with a 3-year subscription to Charge Fox's public EV charger network, which includes DC fast chargers. Like all Porsche models, the Taycan comes with a 3-year unlimited kilometre warranty, which is 2 years behind the premium standard set by Mercedes-Benz, Volvo and Genesis. That said, the Taycan's battery is covered for 8 years or 160,000 kilometres, which brings extra peace of mind. The Taycan also gets ongoing roadside assistance, so long as it's serviced by Porsche, with renewed following every service. Speaking of servicing, intervals for the Taycan are nice and long, at every 2 years or 30,000 kilometres, whichever comes first. Unfortunately, service pricing for the Taycan wasn't available at the time of filming, so owners will have to contact Porsche to confirm it before each visit. Now we're currently here in the Turbo S. Earlier today we drove the 4S and Turbo as well, and while they are all very similar in many regards, the Turbo S is definitely the king of the hill when it comes to acceleration. It is simply explosive off the line, but also in gear, when you step on it, it absolutely goes. Now, as I mentioned earlier as well, it does have a 2-speed transmission on the rear axle, which you can actually hear change gear, which is quite strange for an electric car. In terms of the other grades, the 4S has plenty of power in itself, and you really do get to lean on that instant torque. Definitely not as punchy as the Turbo S, let alone the Turbo, which is not far off the Turbo S, but you're going to get good performance regardless of the grade you choose. Now, as good as accelerating is in the Taycan, what's equally as impressive is braking. In the Turbo S, you've got carbon ceramic brakes, which are incredibly strong. But in the 4S, you've got regular steel brakes, which are pretty damn good as well. And then ceramic coated steel brakes in the Turbo, which are even better yet again. But what is a common theme across all 3 grades is how good the pedal feel is, which is extremely rare for an electric car. Often they feel quite wooden, but in the Taycan, it's very progressive. Now, you'd think with all this power and torque when you're pushing the Taycan around that it would be short on grip, but it certainly isn't. Again, it's all-wheel drive, and in the Turbo S grade, you've got torque vectoring, and that's also in the Turbo as well, and that works really well in terms of slingshotting you out of a corner. It's something you can reliably drive fast and never have any concern about whether or not you're going to have enough traction. In terms of ride, you've got air suspension again, so it is actually really comfortable in the normal drive mode. Go to Sport and you do start to notice things a little bit more, and then Sport Plus probably isn't livable because it does become quite firm, but definitely on a racetrack you'd enjoy how flat it makes the car corner. Either way, handling is really impressive for a car that weighs well over 2 tons. Particularly the active anti-roll bars in the Turbo and Turbo S ensure incredible handling, incredible body control when you're pushing really hard through the corners. In terms of steering, it's an electric setup, but you actually have quite a lot of feel through the wheel, which is great. It's quick and direct and well weighted, but progressively gets heavier as you go through the different drive modes, but it definitely is one of the better electric cars to steer. Now, being an electric car, there is no engine noise at all, so you really do start to notice some of the other noises. Now, they haven't been quite tuned out. You do notice quite a bit of wind noise when you're traveling at about 110 k's, and tyre noise is always prevalent. but at the same time, it's still more than livable. The Taycan is arguably the greatest electric car yet, with it well and truly putting the pressure on the incoming Tesla Model S and Audi e-tron GT. That said, its greatness actually has nothing to do with the fact that it's an electric car and everything to do with the fact that it's a phenomenal sports car. It's for that reason the Taycan's got us really excited and we can't wait to see where it goes next. And don't forget, there's even more detail in my written review, including a breakdown of the overall score, over at the CarsGuide website.